Hello, everyone. Today we'll be discussing the uh, possible astronomical technologies that we may be seeing in the later future. Now, these technologies that we're talking about, they could be fictional. They could be, in fact, impossible to achieve. But I believe that some of them, well, most of them should be conceivable to be in the reach of humankind. But others, well, we will be seeing as others will be more in the impossible category. So I think Kushagar as well has some uh, the astronomical technologies that he wants to talk about as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can add on. I do like have basic information on some technologies.
Okay, well, I'd like to start with something that's sort of surreal, and not really. It's more absurd than the others, but I want to start with this because it's the most notable, sort of science fiction technology related to astronomy. So, warp drive.
Wow.
So, warp drive is basically faster than light or equal to light travel, like speed travel. So it's not like it's exact. It's considering it's basically the next step forward since we've broken the sound barrier. You'd assume that the next limit we'd have to break was the, the speed of light. Literally the uh, speed limit of the universe, which is absolutely impossible considering Einstein's theory of relativity.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be at all an idea. But I mean, if we're really thinking about interstellar flight in general, I think we should take this into account. Now, are you guys familiar with warp drive?
I think I have some basic ideas on what drive is. It's
Right.
like
So you seen warp drive in like movies and stuff of like straight up just basically teleporting as like stars fade away in the distance. Do you think it's a conceivable thing?
well, the amounts of energy required is like too much. So it's either really futuristic or kind of maybe impossible. Because like bending space using matter and antimatter, that's what warp drive is, right? It
Yeah.
requires way too much energy to like produce that much amount of matter. So, yeah,
I thought
That's
matter couldn't be created nor destroyed.
you can create matter using energy.
Oh yeah, E equals MC squared.
I mean,
right. So
we don't have a way to do that yet, but it is futuristically possible.
yeah. So there's another. This is a more this is literally something that's kind of come uh, within our grasp in the future. On NASA's New Horizons is an interplanetary space probe that was launched as a part of NASA's New Frontiers program, engineered by Johns Hopkins University applied, the Applied Physics Laboratory, pretty famous, right? And it's this. I mean, it's not really technology, but it's an advancement. Of course, it's scheduled to leave our solar system, which is like basically its use. It's about to leave the solar system in 2029. So like you could imagine it's after all space probes leaving the solar system has happened before. It's definitely something, but this is like you got to think this is a very recent and like recent in terms of launches. So right, this is way more functional than the other ones. Like it was launched all the way like in 2016 or 17 or something like that, right? Which is recent in according to NASA's launches because they don't focus mainly on space probes, which you've got to understand. So I mean that's also an interesting piece of technology that will be put into use. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's pretty cool. But like, I think there's instead of going like out of the solar system, I think you probably already might have you might already cover this in some later part of this. But um, You know the channel Kurzgesagt in a nutshell?
Yes, I am familiar with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know you've watched the video on skyhooks, right?
The video on what?
Skyhook, the I can't say this probably. The tether. Like it's like a huge barrel of like momentum energy kind of like thing. So like what you do is like ships come and then they just get
You mean
like
the skyhook?
yeah
That cable?
that cable.
Yeah. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, so it can be really useful like as mentioned in the video like but the thing is what if the you know how like the rotary engines on that thing which like align it back into shape.
Do you want to explain to the audience what a skyhook is?
Yeah, right.
Because
Okay,
because
so
we're just talking about this in general, but you can explain here
yeah,
as well.
right. Okay, so a skyhook context or in any context for that matter, skyhook is actually like uh kind of like that's it's kind of like a slingshot. So what essentially happens is that there will be one end which will be in like high Earth atmosphere and the other one is like near low Earth atmosphere, like about like 700 meters off the ground. So what will happen is that ships will be using that as like a vantage point to like get on and then just get flung to the top. So the tether itself would be like would just be a line, like a huge rope with a contour attached to it. It will be spinning. So what will happen is that when the spaceship like attaches itself to the tether, it just gets like slung like really fast. Now what you're probably thinking is that the cost to like maintain this thing. Now when you keep flinging stuff into space, that's a lot of friction and then it'll just fall back down. The thing is, all that momentum can be regained by a ship coming back, and it will just like and it'll just gain momentum. So it's kind of like the more you use it, the cheaper it gets. As
Yeah.
that's essentially
Yeah.
the
Yes,
concept
that's
of
a
a
wonderful
skyhook.
explanation.
I mean, it's called a skyhook when it's literally just think of it as more uh
Think of it as
pun
like a
intended, it's
slingshot.
space hook. It's just a little like ladder for spacecrafts where you can launch them higher with minimal energy. Now, this is like this is something that could honestly, if resources are pulled in together enough, it's very plausible to create a skyhook. Because
Yeah, it
I
is
mean,
very possible to.
and the only problem would be launching a skyhook in the first place, considering that you'd have to somehow counter Earth's gravitational pull while you have a massive like sort of it's a tether basically. It's like a line
Yeah.
of chains or ropes or whatever, and having that in space with like it's not exactly you know something that's easy to do considering that we have like tons of space junk and it's a very
Yeah.
large object. So that would be that's where something could fail. But other than that, it's pretty understandable of a project for a space agency to have. So I think we should go on to the next. Um,
Also, one more thing I should probably point out is that it's not the rope gonna get damaged or anything. The rope can't. We have materials on Earth which can create fibers which can sustain like really powerful stuff. So the thing is, it's not really the strength of the rope. It's what will happen when the object hits it because it will go out of place. It will just knock it out of course, and that will
yeah,
be a bigger problem
yeah,
than actually breaking it.
Yeah.
right. So the next astronomical technology that we might be seeing in the future is this one also more on the sort of impossible range, maybe in the very far future. Are you guys familiar with stellar engines?
Stellar
Yes, I am.
engines. Yes.
Yes, these are sort of mega structures that are able to generate energy from stars, basically. So like it's pretty much in the name, right?
Yeah.
But I thought a stellar engine was something which could move a star.
No, it uses a star to move itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
they
uses the
they're like
energy from a star.
yeah, they use the impulse of the radiation emitted by the star to produce the thrust. They're also called I have a note here. They're also called, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. It's SHKADOV thrusters. Shkadov.
Special.
Something.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Stockcraft.
Skadov.
So I think this is more like a type,
German.
maybe 2, 3 civilization sort of thing that might happen. So, stellar engines are pretty neat because as soon as you get to the level of a stellar engine, you've basically unlocked like all near, not exactly infinite space travel, but you have the ability to generate infinite space travel. Because if you have the technology to make multiple stellar engines continuously over a cycle of time, you
It's not just
basically
that because, sorry to interrupt, but it's not that because 1% of the sun's energy is gonna be enough for the entire world for like decades.
right. But the idea of a stellar engine is that not only do you power your world, you're also trying to move your world, to
In
different
another
places.
habitable world.
Right. So you would be generating not only energy, you'd be generating a way mode of like you have enough energy for a mode of transport, more discoveries going on, different little uh, elements coming together because of the stellar engine. Next idea is the Dyson sphere. Is anyone familiar with that?
Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
You are muted, Vamsi.
Does anyone want to explain what a Dyson sphere is?
It's a bunch of solar panels around a star, basically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically, it's another mega structure. Now, so Dyson spheres, they're actually surprisingly feasible to create if we have enough enough of the cooperation amongst different countries. Because like any separated country, it's absolutely impossible to uh go through with the project of a Dyson sphere. But if we do manage to finally achieve fusion power and be an entire civilization that is connected and united, perhaps then it's possible to go through with the Dyson sphere, which is probably going to be happening in perhaps I think maybe this or next millennia. I'm not gonna say century because century I feel is
Too little of
a
a
bit
time.
too early.
But
Do you
Vamsi, if
agree
you
with
think
that?
about it, the second we have like a successful Dyson sphere produced, we're technically evolving from a first level civilization in Kardashev scale to the second level. So it's gonna be like a huge
Maybe
achievement.
zeroth level to the first level.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what
I
I mean.
agree.
0th level to the
But
first level.
yeah, 100% I agree. But one civilization right now. So there's still first we have to become completely a type one civilization. One that's especially not just a civilization like a bunch of type one civilizations stuck on one planet, but a united type one civilization that is ready to go through the next level, which is I don't see it happening like the next few centuries, but
I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, what is that scale you just mentioned?
Kardashev scale.
Wait,
So
what?
Kardashev. So it's like there's 3 types of civilization. Okay, you want to explain that, Vishaka?
Yeah, so there's like different types of civilizations, like type 0, type 1 civilizations.
Yeah, I
Uh
heard of that concept.
yeah, so that's based off the Kardashev scale. Like,
Okay.
yeah, that is basically the Kardashev scale. Like type 1 civilization according to the Kardashev scale. Like it goes like that.
Oh, okay. I remember something right now. So it's kind of like a type 1 Kardashev scale is like a civilization which can fully exploit all the resources in its neighboring system, in its
Yes.
system. And type
Yes.
0 is all the resources it can exploit in its planet. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and then we get to the galactic level, and yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that's out of the way. Um, Dyson spheres, again, like the stellar engine, as soon as you achieve it, you have basically accomplished one of the largest projects of that a civilization could possibly even think about. Like, it's so far out, it's considered fictional at this point, right? Like currently, it's considered fictional, even though it is, in the very, very far future possible. So,
Yeah, we need the material alone of just putting the panels onto the
actually,
sun.
that's the thing. The material is kind of the easiest part because all we have to do is the hard part is unlock the ability to space travel all the way to the planet of Mercury. Because without material, we will in Mercury. We're separate, and we have to get to Mercury. And then once we get the resources there, it becomes much easier to continue with this project.
I
Oh, wait,
think we'll
small
have one more
question.
issue, like the sun's gravity. If the thing is that close to it, it's gonna be like pulling it continuously. So we'll need to have like a certain escape velocity on the solar panels as well.
So artificial
I don't
gravity
really
is
think
a
so.
thing which is what I'll be talking about next as well. Artificial gravity is something
Right.
that's very
Wait, I don't
uh,
really think so, Kushagra. Because think we have tons of space junk in space which is just floating around us. It's just on our planet. It's not falling down.
But sun's gravity is way more powerful than the Earth's.
Yeah, it
yes.
is. But the thing is, if you keep we just need to be able to like use the mirror as such a way that the sun's light is able to hit it, and then we should be able to transmit that. It doesn't matter where we are. We just need to
Because
be able to receive the sunlight.
uh,
So for all we know, we could just keep it right outside Earth if we want to. If we want to, theoretically.
We could do that, but like I mean, since gravity might just pull it in, right? The solar panels.
Small question.
yeah,
Kushagra, the other day you found like a set of formulas for measuring the equilibrium point between two masses.
Yes.
Now, what if you do the same thing, but you keep the Dyson sphere at that point?
What two bodies are you considering? Because there's like the whole solar
Sun
system.
and Sun and Earth, or Sun
But
and
Jupiter and all, they'll also have a high impact on the solar panel.
No, like you do like a more modified version of it, like it's like 7 objects or something like that.
Right. That is possible. Yes.
So so it would be like
Yeah.
ridiculously difficult, but still,
Yeah.
like you need to find a place where it's equilibrium is stick, and the sunlight's able to like reach
Yeah.
there. So I'm guessing there's gonna be multiple solutions, but yeah,
Yeah. Let's talk about it another day or maybe in the forum. Let
yeah.
Vamsi continue. Yeah.
right. So going on to the next one, as I mentioned before, um, not anti-gravity, sorry, artificial gravity. So you guys, I'm assuming you guys are not familiar with O'Neill cylinders.
Yeah, as you presumed, we are not familiar with
I
the
am kind of familiar with it. I have like the basic idea of how it works.
Vishaga is familiar with it. You gave me the idea of it, but I, I'm guessing Mr. Saucy Boy himself is not. Right. So what an O'Neill cylinder is well, it's a space settlement concept proposed by the American physicist Gerard K. O'Neill in his 1976 book High Frontier: Human Colonies in Space. Now, this is what Wikipedia tells me. Uh, so the idea of an O'Neill cylinder is that it would consist of two counter-rotating cylinders. So one, clockwise, another anti-clockwise, whatever you guys want to think of. Just think of counter-rotating, right? The cylinders would rotate in opposite directions to cancel any gyroscopic effects. Are you familiar with what a gyroscopic effect is?
Yeah, I know what a gyroscope is.
I know what
All right.
but I think we
Yeah.
still want to elaborate on it for like the audience.
Right. so a gyroscope is like let's take the idea of what a gyroscope is. It's like a device that maintains the angular velocity, right? So as it basically it keeps you in a way that you just continuously rotate in all three axes without sort of basically stopping, right? That's what a gyroscopic rotation is, and this device should allow us to outmaneuver that effect. It should cancel all of those gyroscopic effects. Since those effects would basically keep you moving towards the sun, so you should be able to counteract those with this device. That's what the idea of the counterclockwise and counter-rotating cylinders are. So the idea of this device is that um, they would basically allow us to use we would be able to use minerals or materials, whatever, and extracted from various different as like not exactly celestial bodies, more like like moons, asteroids, large asteroids. We would be able to extract materials from there. Now, it is not. I don't see exactly how it's a step ahead, considering that when you have things that you can take into account, like Dyson spheres, and like why not skip to the good part? Now that's what you must be thinking, right? But I feel like when you're stuck on Earth, where you don't have exactly the greatest amount of resources, you have plenty of resources for existence, but you don't have all of the best resources. You can use stuff that you can find a bit out of your neighborhood, such as the moon, asteroids, etc. Stuff like that.
A small
And
question.
yeah,
It's about the clockwise, counterclockwise rotating cylinder thing.
yeah.
I don't really see its use because, like, when you think artificial gravity, the first thing which comes to mind where you would probably use it is like aboard the International Space Station, for example.
Okay,
Yeah.
Shwas, I'll tell you a little thing about general relativity, right? So basically, all kinds of accelerations produce a force that is equivalent to gravity. Like if something is accelerating, then you could say that it produces a pseudo force. You know what a pseudo force is? It's an
No.
artificial force kind of thing.
Okay.
Like if there's centrifugal force, there's centripetal force. Opposite forces basically.
Like that, okay.
Yeah. So whenever something accelerates, we always get gravity, right? And this is stated by the general theory of relativity, Albert Einstein. So mass and accelerations produce gravity.
Hmm.
So I think when the cylinder constantly rotates, it's
Oh, okay. I
accelerating
see
because
your
its
point.
velocity is changing every second.
Yeah, but like I think there's a much cheaper option of using an electromagnet and some magnetic shoes.
Yeah,
Now,
but
it
when you talk
you
about
have
gravity, it's not only about your legs, right? I mean, your blood flow, your plants, they'll all be pulled towards the side. We don't want that.
Right.
Yeah.
you also have to think of the actual structure, right? So,
Right.
you don't want it to fall apart midway, because you want listen. It's not exactly connected. This cylinder, they're not touching each other would not even like, just think about it, how disastrous if they touched each other. So you got to maintain this counterclockwise, this sort of counter rotation, while having them not touch each other, while not moving towards the sun, because then they would end up touching each other, or end up in a explosion, like a mess basically. You don't want that. So that's why this procedure was created. Now, the neat thing about the O'Neill cylinder, my favorite part, is it offers a mode of space colonization. Now, are you familiar with what space colonization is?
Basically
Living in
going to a
space.
different country.
Right. Imagine colonization, but space.
That's basically what it says. It's
Yeah.
literally
Imagine kicking aliens out of their homes.
I mean, that's like kicking animals out of the forest, but like on a big level.
Yeah, but like we are your gods level. Like imagine you there's a type 1 civilization and you have an O'Neill cylinder because you're just that large of a civilization, and they see sky people coming from the sky. We're immediately gonna assume that is God.
I don't think
So
a type 1 silver, yeah, that is gonna work.
yeah. And so that's basically the idea behind this. Now I have one last, it's more of a question towards you guys, right?
Yes.
What would you do? What would be your aim if you had the ability to like produce like these futuristic astronomical inventions, discoveries, not discoveries, well, technologies.
Well, definitely
Like,
not kicking aliens out of their houses.
we will agree to disagree.
I would say probably like, wait, you're saying that I can build it?
No,
Yeah,
not that you can. It's more like what would you want to build, basically?
and
Oh,
why?
okay.
Yeah.
In that case, I would think the Dyson sphere is the most practical option, as if you get the Dyson sphere out of the way first, you'll have all of your energy problems are solved, and you can knock out the rest of them one by one.
Well, I would build a warp drive using Suhas's Dyson sphere, using all that energy, and then I can basically time travel, I can space travel, I can I can kick aliens out of their homes, and yeah, do all
Yeah.
sorts of cool things. What would you do, Vamsi?
Uh, honestly, why not skip to the best part and go for the O'Neill cylinder and immediately start extracting mass amounts? Like, can you imagine if this was a corporate thing? One company has an O'Neill cylinder and they're just mining resources not from Earth but from outside. Like, imagine if, thank God that space is not a capitalist like